circle. Yes, it was. Yeah. That's such a beautiful country. We just saw. No, I asked them about that. They said it was too early. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I went to Norway, but it was the land of midnight sun.
You were saying season others, but I guess
Well, I was no, we were just singing for our class. We didn't know who would show up.
so Margaret and Martin will not be here. Jack and Martin.
Yeah, I saw.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I saw Linda and George in church, but that's the only ones I saw. Yeah. Yeah, talked to her. She said she was doing pretty good. It takes a long time to recover. Yeah, when you get our age especially. Yeah. They do that to older people. She kept finding it.
Test one. Test 1, 2. Testing 1, testing 1, 2, test 1, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. There we go. Thank you, Gunder.
There's the seat next to you. Would you move towards the middle? We just have some folks coming in, including some 4th and 5th graders. We want to make it really easy when they get down here. So if you have the ability to move in towards the middle, I know that is so anti-Methodist. Just sit in the front and in the middle, but just so we have some seats down in place.
Well, not dreams about it, but yeah, I have enjoyed it, looking back over my pictures.
Well, welcome. It's great to be together today, and I'm going to turn this over to the dazzling Scott Meyer in just a moment. I said that because of this shirt, you know, and because he has a dazzling personality. Yes, we can do that. No, seriously. Oh, the mission to Tanzania, of course, has been in place for quite some time and has been led by many people, and has been supported by the church in many ways. It's great to be able to hear this report, restart after the pandemic. And so I'm just glad for everyone who's been a part of this, who gave birth to it, who's energized it over the years, and now for Scott's leadership. Although I heard this team had kicked him out of the leadership post, and that therefore I get your shirt. Like, where is my shirt? He didn't bring me a shirt, so not so dazzling, Scott. God is at work in all kinds of places all around the world, and one of those is Tanzania, and we're going to hear about it today. Thank you to all of you who went and bring this story back to us. Thank you, Scott. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for coming and hearing about what we're doing in Tanzania. And really today is a celebration, in my mind, a celebration of what we as a church are doing in a place that seems very far away. We celebrate what God is doing there as well as what God is doing here as we live into this idea of changing lives that change the world. And we really take that very seriously. As we talk today, we've got some videos. We have some pictures that we'll just kind of scroll through. Enjoy those as you hear from myself and the team members. Tanzania is a great success story for McFarlin when we talk about partnerships. A little less than 10 years ago, Pastor Umba and Ngoy Kalangwa, who are United Methodist missionaries appointed to Tanzania, came to the United States and met with some of, while they were here in the United States, met with some of our McFarlin leadership. And at that time, our church leadership was looking for the place that we were going to partner and invest in. Let me take a little side note here. What is extremely important to missions at McFarlin is that we find partners who are on the ground wherever we serve. So if we are serving in Norman, if we're serving in the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas, if we're serving in Tanzania, we want to partner with people who are there so that our work is ongoing 365 days a year and not just when we show up. And so as God began to open up doors for us to connect with Pastor Umba, McFarlin just began to really search for opportunities and ways that we could deepen and strengthen that partnership. In 2017, we sent a scout team that went and visited Morogoro, Tanzania, had the opportunity to see what was going on and solidify that opportunity for us to be in partnership with them. And then in 2018, we sent a second team that went to Tanzania. They ran a dental clinic. Dr. Bloom was a part of that and ran a dental clinic, had a great team. And we just, again, continued to see that God was strengthening what it was that we were doing in Tanzania. And then the pandemic hit, and we were able as a church, because of the faithfulness of the people of McFarlin, we were able to continue to send finances to Tanzania. We have built water wells. We have purchased a school bus and helped to purchase a second school bus. We have sponsored children for school to be able to be educated. And we've paid for teachers and continued to support the ministry of Pastor Umba and Ngoy in a variety of ways. This past summer, just a few months ago, a team of 8 of us went to Morogoro. We left on June 24th and were there for a little over a week. I just have to take another little aside. We were on 4 continents because of some travel problems, 4 continents in less than 3 days. Can anybody top that? Yeah. This team was just a really great team, and we're excited to be able to share some of what we saw and some of what is going on in Tanzania. I'm just making sure I kind of start to ramble. I want to make sure I don't miss my notes. I'm going to ask our team members who were with us to stand up at various times this morning and share their reflections and to share with you why Tanzania is so important to us. One other thing I want to say to you is there are lots of places in the world that need lots of help. And one of the things that I know and just was solidified for me when we were there this summer is that this is where God wants us to be. That there are other places that we could serve. There are other places that we could go. But to be empowered by the Spirit, to be guided by God, to know that Morogoro, Tanzania is where we are meant to be is so important because we want to be guided by the Spirit. And whenever we work and whenever we find ourselves partnering with places and we know that it's been God ordained, it's exciting to see how things really flourish. What Pastor Umba and Ngoy have been able to do even over the last several years, even in the midst of the pandemic, continuing to grow and expand their ministry and reach new people has been pretty incredible. The Kalangwas originally went to Tanzania in the 1990s, 1993, 1994. They started out in the capital of Dar es Salaam. And at one point then felt the call to leave. Sorry, did I turn that off? Felt the call. They started a church in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and then felt the call to go to Morogoro, Tanzania, where they struggled to start a church. And one of the things that Pastor Umba noticed was that there were a lot of children who were not being educated. Their families couldn't afford, for whatever reason, to send them to school. And so that's when they started the Wesley Primary School, which has kind of been the benchmark of their work in Tanzania. And one of the things that we know and you'll hear throughout our presentation today, is that we know that education and healthcare are the quickest way to get people out of poverty. And it's one of the reasons that McFarlin has school partnerships not only here in Norman, but also really emphasizes those school partnerships in Tanzania. Kristen Howard is our lead storyteller. She works on staff here at McFarlin and does an incredible job. If you've ever seen any of our blogs and videos and a lot of the social media posts that we get prepared, Kristen does an incredible job for that. And she's been a part of the 3 teams that went to Tanzania in 2017, 18, and then this past summer. And so I'd like to invite her to come up and share some reflections. I've asked each of the team members to answer the question, why Tanzania? Why Tanzania?
Hey, everybody. There's so many people here. Thank you all for coming. I just want to share a little bit as someone who has had the privilege of being part of the teams that have gone. Just a couple of reflections on why Tanzania is such an important partnership for us as a church family and for the church at large, the global church. So many times throughout the New Testament, we read Jesus tell people over and over again that to love God is to love God's children. And several times, he gets very specific about caring for God's children with extra needs, those with barriers they cannot overcome alone, barriers that are sometimes indicative of systems of injustice. Scripture also tells us time and time again that God loves every single person on this planet and desires to see them flourish in this life with the gifts and strengths and passions that they have. So how does the church fit into this? How does McFarlin fit into this? Well, I believe that the mission of the church is to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. And I have seen that in the ministries that the Kalangwas have in Tanzania. Justice includes breaking down barriers and building systems that care for people and help them thrive, like breaking systems of poverty through education. Mercy includes making sure all people have basic needs like food, water, shelter, and health services. Humility means partnering and building community with other people, knowing that we need each other in order to accomplish this work. These are the things that I have witnessed Umba and Ngoy and their team and their church doing ever since I went on that first trip in 2017. Their commitment to sharing God's love and grace is evident in the fruit of their ministry, and you'll see some of that today. It has been an honor to capture just a fraction of the work they've been doing to bring hope and generational change to so many people in Tanzania. Thank you.
I want to introduce next Dana Rieger, who is one of our team members. One of the things that I just, when you work at a church and you get to know people, when you get to travel with them and you really find new things to love and appreciate about them. And I just loved this team that God brought together. And I've always appreciated Dana. She's been on several mission trips with us to Rio Grande Valley. But it was just really fun to get to travel with her as a part of this team. So she's going to share some reflections.
Thank you. I get really emotional when I start talking about this mission trip. So please bear with me. I want to thank McFarlin for allowing me to go on this trip. I want to thank McFarlin for supporting such a wonderful mission in Moragora. It was amazing. It was life-changing. It totally changed the way I look at a lot of things in life. And as Scott said, Pastor Umba and his wife are missionaries, and they were sent to grow the Methodist faith in Moragora in Tanzania, and they are doing that. I kind of think of Pastor as like the big picture guy. He's kind of the big picture guy. He sees what needs to happen, and he makes it happen. They have big plans for that area. They have big plans as far as increasing the faith. They have big plans as to increase the clinic, to make the clinic larger there in Moragora, and I think that we are very lucky to have a partner in them. They are true visionaries. I kind of thought that Pastor Umba was kind of like a politician when we were there. He was always on the phone, always talking. I always thought, this guy is working it. He is working it, because we didn't see him a lot. We had a couple of young ladies that were kind of our keepers, probably. We probably needed keepers. But almost all the time that you saw him, he was on the phone. He was really, I think, just doing his job and trying to garner more interest, donations, work, that kind of work. I want to just kind of share some of the programs that they started that were truly amazing to me. So Mama Ngoy started a sewing program, or there is a sewing program there, and they bring people in, and they're on a 3-month period where they learn to sew. So they are there training for 3 months. If you'll notice, we all have matching dresses. In about 5 days, they had measured all of us and produced all of our dresses and shirts. So they were all custom made for us, which is simply amazing, I think. So they have the sewing program where they teach people to sew. Once they graduate the program, they are given a sewing machine, and they're sent back out to their communities with an opportunity to try to make an income, which is truly amazing in that area. We visited 2 different Maasai tribes and their churches, and both of those tribes had a plan. They handed us a plan. They all have big plans and big ideas, and we're here to try to help them fulfill those plans. Pastor Umba and his wife, one thing that I left with was Pastor Umba and his wife have put people in place to be the pastors, to be the liaisons, to be the business people. They're young, they're smart, they're very motivated to help grow the Methodist faith. There were a number of clinic employees, there's doctors on staff, there's nurses on staff. They're smart as a whip. They're smart, they're young. So I really left with the feeling that Pastor Umba and his wife are where they need to be. They're great team partners for us because they see the whole big picture, and they are truly making it happen. So, thank you.
I'm going to take a pause before we go on to Alice. I want to talk just briefly to the 4th and 5th graders who are in here and to our youth. McFarlin's an intergenerational church, and what we do is to try to include everybody. And I'm really glad that you guys are here this morning to hang out and watch this. And I know there's a lot of talking, and it might I understand sometimes that stuff can be a little boring, right? But this is really important because what you're going to learn about what's going on in Tanzania is someday all of us adults are going to need you to carry it on. Someday, some of you youth, teenagers, you're coming with me and we're going to Tanzania, okay? So I know this morning may not be like, maybe a lot of talking, but I just want to celebrate that you all are here. And thank you, okay, very much. All right. So you may have heard that at one point I was overthrown as the leader of the Tanzania mission team. If you've ever traveled with me, like, how could that even happen? But our star of the show was Alice McGrew, who just was a delight to travel with, but also was a great ambassador. One of the things that happens sometimes when you go on a mission trip, especially when you go to a culture that's very different, is you're sort of on display. And some of us don't always deal with that real well. It can kind of be overwhelming, and you're not sure how you are supposed to fit in. But Alice just did an incredible job of interacting with locals and getting to know them and hearing their stories, and was just a great face for not only our team, but McFarlin and Christianity as a whole. And so I've asked Alice to share a little bit of her experience. The leader of the Tanzania mission team.
Only because I am the oldest. I was the elder. But anyway, I have to say, first of all, it was a wonderful trip. It was my first mission trip. And I thought, it's now or never. So anyway, it was a great opportunity and it was a great experience. When I got home, my first reflection is, we are blessed. We don't know how blessed we are, but we are very blessed. We have so much that other people can't even imagine. So anyway, that is wonderful. But like Dana said, we went to 2 Maasai tribes. We saw the polyclinic. We saw the sewing. We saw the churches. And what the people in the churches were just glorious. They were so joyful. It was just fun to be around them. They were so welcoming to us. We loved every minute of it. They were always singing and dancing, and it was great. One of the things that I really enjoyed seeing was the kids in the schools. We visited several classrooms, and we want all of our kids in school to love school, to enjoy it, to have fun. But what I don't think that people here realize is they see it as a privilege and a blessing that they can go to school, even the 6-year-olds. They just worked so hard. And I think it is a blessing to all of us. I know we are going to support a student with a scholarship and also lunch for a year. And, we're proud to do that. I just want to mention 2 people that I especially remember. Felice Stur was one of our caretakers. She was always there. She always sat with me. She always asked me if I could help her do something, And sometimes I needed help with something. So I always had to help her. And our team was great help too. The other person that I especially remember was Joyce. Joyce was studying to be a minister, and she was so fun. During songs, I would look at her. She would twirl her tongue around and make this, to me it was a beautiful sound. But she just would sing, and I said, Joyce, how do you do that? And she just kind of shrugged her shoulders. But when I heard her, I think of the verse from the Bible, make a joyful sound unto the Lord, or make a joyful noise unto the Lord, which is what she did.
So I want to introduce this first video that we're going to show to you. One of the things that McFarlin is always looking for are opportunities to sort of blaze a new trail when it comes to missions. And about 2 years ago, Pastor Umba came to us about some children in the Maasai tribe. The Maasai tribe is a traditionally nomadic tribe of people throughout eastern Africa. And in recent years, governments such as Tanzania have made it very difficult for them to continue the nomadic lifestyle and want them to be stationary, to be in one place. They raise cattle, and this has been a part of that nomadic lifestyle for a long time. For most of generations of Maasai tribe people, they do education within the tribe. And so when the Maasai came to Pastor Umba and asked him to bring the United Methodist Church and Christianity into the Maasai communities, it opened up opportunities to make sure that the children of the Maasai tribes were being educated, because now that they were stationary, that became a real possibility and opportunity. But education is beyond level 7, or about 14 years old, becomes cost prohibitive. And so many children in the Maasai tribe would get to that age and then not be able to go on. So about 2 years ago, Pastor Umba approached us and asked if we would be willing to scholarship the first Maasai girls in Tanzania to ever go to high school. And we took up that opportunity right away. And so we currently are sponsoring 10 girls and 2 boys from the Maasai tribe in high school. It's a boarding school, so they go away to school. But the really key part of this is that for young women to go to school will open up tremendous opportunities for them, opportunities that they have never known in the past. It means that instead of getting married at a very young age, they will be able to go on and find jobs and careers and integrate into society. We're not trying to steal their tradition. We're not trying to steal their Maasai traditions. What we're trying to do is open up opportunities for them to be who it is that God has created them to be. And McFarlin is sponsoring them. And here's the thing. There are more and more Maasai girls and boys who are eligible to go to high school. And so we're looking for opportunities in the coming years to expand the number of children that we are able to send to high school. It's a really exciting opportunity. But I want to show you this first video that talks a little bit about the Maasai tribe and these students that we're scholarshiping. Here in Tanzania, and we're at the school where the Maasai girls are attending high school. These are girls that McFarlin is supporting. And did you see the statement, changing the life of the youth to change the world? If that doesn't talk about changing lives that change the world, I don't know what does, but it's really exciting to be here and actually be in the spot where we're helping to change lives of girls from the Maasai tribe. education is a key part of not only United Methodist missions around the world, but certainly for McFarlin. As you know, we have partnerships with 4 schools, 3 elementary schools and a middle school here in Norman. And one of the key parts of our work in our partnership with Pastor Umba is the education of children. One of the things that McFarlin has made a commitment to do is to invest in the lives of people. There are a lot of individuals who've helped to build school buildings in Tanzania with Pastor Umba, and we celebrate those churches that are doing that. But the commitment that McFarlin is making is to make sure that we're investing in scholarships and making sure that we have feeding programs for children so that they can be at their best and learn the most. There's a handout you can grab as you leave today, but I just want to share with you there are 662 children enrolled at the Wesley Primary School, and they could take more if they had more buildings. It's a very popular school, and it's one that lots of people want to get into. And many of these children would not have the opportunity to go to school if it were not for the Wesley Primary School. McFarlin Church is scholarshiping 42 children every year at $300 per year. These are children who would, again, have no way, their families could in no way support them financially to go to school. Lunches are not free at the Wesley Primary School just because of expenses. And so we are sponsoring 208 children with school lunches. And that cost for us is $127 per student per year. Our missions committee has talked a lot about this, that this is actually the number one priority. The school lunch program is the number one priority when we talk about children and education, because as many of our teachers on the missions committee have noted, it's really difficult to learn on an empty stomach. And for many of these children, this is the primary meal they will receive every day each week. And so it's an extremely important part of our ministry. There are 50 teachers and staff employed at the Wesley Primary School. Off and on through the years, McFarlin has paid teacher salaries. Right now we're covering one teacher's salary in the Maasai tribe. And one of the most, one other note I'll say is several years ago, McFarlin purchased a school bus so that Pastor Umba could expand the reach of the number of children that they are able to bring to the Wesley Primary School, and over 100 children ride the bus. This bus is like a 15-passenger, 20-passenger bus, and somehow they run multiple runs, and they put well more than 20 kids in the bus just to get them to school. But that the bus that was purchased in 2017 was purchased by McFarlin Church. The Wesley Primary School has a 95% graduation rate. And what's really, so in September of every year, those children who are in grade 7, 14 years old, take a national standardized test to determine whether or not they are eligible to go on to high school. The main thing about that test is it's really a weeding out test because there's not enough space for all children in Tanzania to go on to high school. So to have a 95% graduation rate is absolutely incredible. And last September, of the children who are eligible to take the standardized test, 100% of them passed the test, and 100% of them are in high school today. Literally, generational change is occurring not only in Morogoro, but ultimately in Tanzania, and I believe ultimately in the world because of the investment in education. These families, these children will help to see their next generation rise out of poverty, which is extremely important. I want to invite Jean and Alan Knehans, who were also a part of the trip, to come up and share. Jean is both of them lifelong educators. Jean at Norman Public Schools, and Alan worked for the University of Oklahoma. And I want them to share a little on their insights about why Tanzania.
Okay, it was his idea to go. When it was first mentioned, he says, "Let's go." And I'm like, okay. So I have to say that we flew halfway around the world to a place I had to look up on the globe, on the map, and see even where it was in the world. And I was really anxious, and I was worried about what was going to happen. Well, what were we going to find when we got to Tanzania? And so when Scott said, answer the question, why Tanzania? I thought, I'm going to have to think about this. Okay, when I got to Tanzania, I found people just like you and me. There were families living together, loving each other, moms and dads who want a better life for their kids, people who love their families, and want what's best for them, just like we do here. I found people who love God and believe in Jesus Christ as their Savior, just like we do. I found children, happy children, who are eager to learn and very well behaved. I have to say, as a teacher of 30-some years, their kids were a lot better behaved than our kids are. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. These people want futures. They want futures full of hope and full of the joy of Christ. These people are filled with happiness. You know, I never saw anybody complaining or worried or crying. They're full of joy and peace about the lives that they have. They're also passionate about their religion. We would go and be in their churches, and they were just happy that God was there. They knew that God was there, and they're people just like us. I can't say that enough. Just like us, and they deserve a life more like our lives, I think. So a highlight of the trip for me was visiting the two Maasai tribes. These people live out in the wild, and you saw them at the bush. I never knew what the bush was, but the bush is just a place with bushes, and that's about it. There was nothing out there, and it took a couple of hours for us to get to them. Their homes are made of sticks and mud, and they have to wait till the rainy season to build a home because they don't have water to make the mud to build a home during the dry season. Our churches have dug wells for them. Scott has already mentioned that, so they can have clean water. Otherwise, they would have to walk miles and miles to get clean water. They worshiped with us, and they shared their food with us. These people deserve a lot better life than they have. They need our help. The three problems that I think Scott mentioned: ignorance, poverty, and disease. Those are the problems there, and even the government has said, yep, these are our problems. Well, I figured, after thinking about it for a little bit, it's not surprising that if we help with the first problem, the ignorance, the other problems will be taken care of too. Now, these are not stupid people. They just haven't been educated. What we've started doing and need to continue doing is building schools and educating the children. Education leads to jobs and careers for those who never had a chance at these things. This will shrink the poverty because more people will have jobs and be working. And it'll stop the spread of disease because they'll understand what's going on and try to help with that. Now, children go to school from pre-K to 7th grade. Most pass that test to get into secondary school, but they can't afford it to go. Well, we've got a little bit of extra money around here. Thanks to scholarships, they go to school. And so, like Scott said, the generational change is beginning, and it's beginning with us. We are doing this for people that are just like us. It doesn't take a lot of money to make an enormous difference in the lives of these people. They're good people, just like us. So when he asked or said, why Tanzania? That was an easy answer: for the people.
Well, I have to follow Jean's comments, darn it. Thanks, Jean. When Scott asked us to talk about why Tanzania, I immediately thought of one word, and that's opportunity. Scott has used that word a few times in his comments, but I want to focus on the opportunity part. McFarlin wants to serve. We serve our community. We have a fantastic food pantry that you're aware of. something that I'm proud of, and I know all of you are proud of. We're building the mission center. But McFarlin thinks big. We dream big. And to me, serving the people of Tanzania is thinking big. And yet, if we were to try to figure out a way to go to Tanzania and serve there, I wouldn't even know where to begin. But because we have the opportunity to partner with Pastor Umba, who has been there for 30 years, building his ministry, we can sort of take the easy route and help him with his ministry, so that whether you're interested in education, he's doing it. Interested in healthcare, he's doing it. Interested in evangelism, he's doing it. Him and his ministry, and we can help with that. When we went to the Maasai tribe, they talked about miracles. And they talked about, for example, the well, for them to have water. They saw it as a miracle, just to give you some idea of what a big deal what we've been able to do, because we sponsored that well that they have now, so that they have water instead of having to travel miles and miles to carry water. So when I think of Tanzania and Pastor Umba, I do think of miraculous. What he has accomplished and is continuing to accomplish is miraculous. And I am so proud that McFarlin has the opportunity to be part of the miracle of his work. And I use that word not lightly, because I've seen it with my own two eyes, and I don't know how else to describe it. It is a miracle. How he's done what he's done had to be a God thing. He could not have possibly done it on his own. So thank you for all of your support of the Tanzania mission.
Those are really good words. I appreciate that. We want to show you a video from some of the children in Wesley Primary School. These are children that McFarlin sponsors. And I want you to capture, especially 4th and 5th graders, I want you to think about, what is your dream when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up, as you watch this next video about the Wesley Primary School?
My name is Brian. I'm in class 4.
My name is Letitia. I'm in class 7.
My name is Mustafa. I'm in class 6.
My name is Boaz. I'm in class 4.
My name is Jennifer. I'm class 4.
I'm Janelle. I'm in class 7.
My name is Damas. I'm in grade 7.
My name is Raphael. I'm class 2.
Dana.
Teacher.
Doctor. Pilot.
Soldier.
Scientist.
I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor, a lawyer.
Doctor.
Teacher.
Doctor. I want to be a pilot.
I want to be an engineer.
Driver of aeroplane. Police.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a soldier. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor.
Just think about the ways that McFarlin is investing in helping children who have been given a dream for their lives to one day realize them. And again, like we talk about, making generational change in Tanzania. I want to invite our last two members of our team to come up and share. Greg Chandler, and excited to hear what he has to say.
Thanks. Good morning. I'm glad to be able to come talk to you all this morning a little bit about what we experienced. Before, Scott talked about why Tanzania. For me, I had a little different perspective from the team. I actually lived in Kenya in 8th grade. Went to school there, my brother and I did. I was able to go back in the military about 11 years ago and lived there for 9 months. We traveled through 10 different countries, but mainly Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, some of the East Africa areas. And so I've noticed, kind of comparing the 3 trips that I've been there from 1982, when I was first there, till 2023, 40 years, 41 years, that I can honestly say that the number one thing we've heard here before, the people, the happiness, the joy, they love God, they're not happy, or they're not afraid to hide their joy for the Lord. They love their neighbors, they love their people. And so when we think, why do we want to sponsor Tanzania? Resources are finite. I would love, if I won the lottery, to be able to provide scholarships for every child in the school. I'd like to be able to provide every church for the Maasai community, to build the schools, the clinics that they need. I can't do that on my own. Scott can't do that on his own. It takes a group. And so with that knowledge that resources are finite, we want to make sure that we are good stewards of the money that we spend. If we send money all over the world, it would be a very small amount that could go to each country. In reality, we could buy people a stick of gum. However, with Pastor Umba, that McFarlin is sponsored with, he has set the groundwork for a program that is not just school, it's not just religion, it's not just medical. It ties everything together to fulfill all of the needs to bring the community, these communities in Morogoro and the Maasai community, out of the poverty level, to try to elevate them and give their kids and their grandchildren and their country a chance at getting away from the poverty, from the disease, from the just everyday things that wear people down. The average work week in Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. The average pay, I looked it up coming over here because I wanted to make sure, for laborers, $80 a month. If you're healthcare workers, anywhere from $80 to $120 a month. So the amount of resources that they have is limited, very limited. When we left there, after the majority of the team went on the airplane, Alice, Dana, and I took Pastor Umba and his wife and the driver to dinner to show them the appreciation for all that they have done with us. And I just remember sitting down at the table, they're looking at the menu, and they're like, we can't order anything, it's too expensive. Remember that? It was shocking when you see people that live in such a reduced ability to provide things. So we ended up, Dana leaned over and goes, get whatever you want, it's on us. So they ended up getting some some meals, but just the thought of one meal that we provided for them was such, it was, I can't say it's overwhelming, but it was very well appreciated and something that was not what they normally did. So why Tanzania? We, I think, have partnered with an organization, with Pastor Umba and the organization that he's started and built to provide the basis of Christ, the basis of God, to help community. We want to try to spread the love of God, the love of the Lord around, and I think Pastor Umba is doing a great job. So why Tanzania? I think that he demonstrated from the videos, the testimonies, and everything, excuse me, that we've had before on why that I believe that we need to, as much as we can, to provide help to the school and Pastor Umba, the communities there, to make them a better place. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Mary Ann Sechrist, and I'm a retired nurse. And when it was announced that McFarlin was sending another team, I just, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I never looked back, never questioned it, never doubted, even though I had another trip already planned a month before. It's amazing what a minimal amount of health care that we would take for granted can impact someone's life. In one of our visits to the village, they brought a child to us that had hydrocephalus. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but it's a 3-month-old baby, and it had, this huge brain, okay? And it was a fluid problem. And that child would not have survived a normal life. It would have been extremely impaired and probably died. And so we went back and talked to Dr. Bahati that evening, and the next day, that child was in the clinic. He had made arrangements with his contacts in Dar es Salaam, and the surgery to fix that is considered routine now and only costs $600. And there is a government health care system, and for $68, for the want of $68, a family with a single child can receive health care. And the clinic that they opened the day we were there, it's like we were there for the birth of this clinic. The plaque on the side of it is that day that we were there. It was a big deal, and we had no idea this was going to happen. And we were sitting there, and the music was loud, and I was kind of, And then all these people started arriving in their Sunday best, and politicians and important people. And this was a really, really big deal, okay, that I was totally unprepared to witness. I knew there was a clinic, but I didn't know it was just getting off the ground. And I was a surveyor for the State Health Department way back when. And, I went with a team, and we would survey places, healthcare facilities, and for Medicare reimbursement. You had to meet all these standards. And I was very impressed with the clinic. They had a pharmacy with all the basic things that you would need to treat, primary care problems. They have high blood pressure. They have women who have babies, just like we do. They have some different environmental public health problems that are very easy to manage. They just need a little bit of help, okay? In one of the villages, there was a woman that had a baby, carrying a baby, you know, in the front, wrapped up, and she had one on her back. And I asked one of our handlers, do they have twins, you know? And she just looked at me, no, one is 9 months older than the other. And when the women have a baby, they go to the hospital, they have it in a hospital, but they get there on a motorcycle. And it's probably an hour-and-a-half ride, half of it in the bush. And, you know, that's just the standard of how it happens there, okay? And they have the facilities in the clinic to monitor pregnancies. But their school system also has part of the curriculum is health and hygiene, okay? So they're getting this information in school, as well as there's a lot of sanitation that, you know, that impacts the folks. We were really kind of shocked by some of the, well, we're lucky, okay? I'll just say we're lucky. So the clinic, they think big. Dr. Bahati is an amazing young man. You're going to see him on the video. But they have everything they need to have a good start. They've got a laboratory, they've got a pharmacy, they have exam rooms, they have an ultrasound to monitor pregnancies, they have an EKG machine, and they have the knowledge base in the doctors, and they can do it. And what they want to do is become a provider of health care to the extent that they can be reimbursed and supported by the government's health care plan. And, you know, that is so huge. It can be, and I believe it will be, a government-supported clinic. Right now, it's free for everybody, you know, and I don't know how they can do that, but they'll manage to do it. And so, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what God has planned for me, but it's something I can't stop thinking about. And if you would like to in any way be involved with any kind of health care or helping support, we haven't really identified anything yet here at McFarlin that has to do with the clinic, but if you're interested in maybe, you know, coming up with some ideas, you can get in touch with me through Scott. But they're going to do this, and it would help. It would be a lot easier if they had our help.
One of the things that Pastor Umba has really expanded is the medical clinic, and we have a video from Dr. Bahati. They have 3 full-time doctors and a staff of nurses, and are continuing to meet the healthcare needs. And one of the things I really want you to focus on is he talks about the 3 main issues about poverty and raising people out of poverty, not only in Tanzania but around the world. This young man who's the doctor, Dr. Bahati, is pretty incredible. So here's our final video.
My mom was really sick when she was pregnant. When I was in her womb, she was sick all the time. My family is very poor. My father couldn't even afford for the health services. So I got interested, like, why this woman does not get well. So I decided to become a doctor to treat first my mom and then all mothers and all other kids who are facing some challenges as far as health is concerned. The main reason is I want to help mankind. Here in Tanzania, as it has been in the underdeveloped countries, our great president, the founder of this nation, they identified 3 things as the enemy of the country. Number 1, he identified ignorance be number 1 of our enemy, and then diseases and the poverty. Number 1, we have been trying to establish schools across the country. We educate our children and young people on how they can get out and get rid of this enemy number 1, the ignorance. We just started dealing with the number 2 enemy, which is the diseases. This is the first facility of our church here in Morogoro, whereby we provide outpatient services to the community. Whenever the chances arises, we will start immediately building of the dispensary at Masai district, where many people living in that area, they don't have any kind of healthy service facility. So we are really praying to God that He will grant us with the opportunity and the ability to have that facility established in there. Only a doctor, but also I'm a teacher. Why am I a teacher as well? Because I wanted to train these young men and women who are going to become doctors, nurses, lab scientists, and all of them, to become ethical people and mentor them on how they can provide the best and quality health services without demanding anything from people. This, I just want everybody to know that this is a service and not a business. If you want to do business and earn more money, get out of healthy field and then do something else there, guess what? If we fight against ignorance and provide a good health, people will find eventually their own way to get rid of the poverty. If you have a good health and now you know how to deal with the life challenges, then you become free from the poverty. Thank you.
As we wrap up this morning, I want to first off say thank you to McFarlin. I want to acknowledge those people who had the vision of Tanzania many years ago. And as I moved into the role of Director of Missions, I got to inherit an incredible ministry that was paved by a lot of people in this church, and I'm grateful to them and grateful to you who continue to support that. There's 3 things I would ask for you as you leave today. One is, will you pray for the people of Tanzania, for Pastor Umba and Ngoy, the children of Wesley Primary? On the back table here, it's a piano bench. As you leave, there's a sheet that talks about our support of Wesley Primary and this special offering that we're receiving last Sunday and this Sunday. There are a couple of pictures, one of all of the children at Wesley Primary and then some who are going through the food line. If you want to take one of those and be praying for them specifically. And then there's also an offering envelope. I also want to make sure to acknowledge that I'm thankful for all of you who give to our general budget. Because in addition to special offerings, it's our general budget that helps support so many, well, really all of the ministries that we do in so many ways. The next thing, so I'm asking you to pray, think about how you can give and support. And then the final thing is, if you feel the nudge to go, we are going back. I'm not sure exactly when we're going back, but I've had a number of people. We will continue to send teams to go and interact and to see directly what we're doing firsthand in Tanzania, as long as there's people who are interested. And we'll have some potential dates out in the coming months about 2024 when we might be going. But then I also want to say thank you for your presence today, just being here. There are so many more stories of what God is doing in Tanzania. And what makes this church an incredible church is that you showed up this morning to hear about what God is doing. It's not about McFarlin. It's not about Pastor Umba. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about what God is doing through all of us. It's about people who hear and respond. And whether it's Pastor Umba who responded in Tanzania or you who respond to give or pray or to do something specific, I'm thankful for each and every one of you. I'm thankful for the future of this church. I'm thankful what we will be able to continue to do here and around the world. So we're going to close in prayer. I'm going to ask you to allow the children to leave first, just so they can get to their parents. And feel free to talk to any of us. We have so many more stories to share with you about the incredible work in Tanzania. But let's pray. God, I'm thankful for today. I'm thankful for this group of people who came and heard. I pray, oh God, that you'll continue to guide this church, guide Pastor Umba and Ngoy and their team. Open up the opportunities for them. Be with the children at Wesley Primary. Be with Dr. Bahati and his staff. Be with all of the individuals of the United Methodist churches throughout Tanzania who continue to share the gospel of Jesus Christ in very tangible and real ways that are changing lives. And I pray, God, that you will continue to lay before this church opportunities for us, and that we will have the boldness to respond, each and every one of us, however it is that we are called to respond. Give us the boldness to do that. In Christ's name I pray all these things. Amen.